Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this one we are going over some news that we found. It looks like Fanbyte was able to get some confirmation. That's not really fair, I don't know that they did it, but they reported on it early, so we'll get into it. And what this is it looks like a voice actor from Xenoblade Chronicles 3, who was originally in the first Xenoblade Chronicles game, did leak, confirm, whatever, that the next game is basically ready. But let's get into the article. If any of you have questions, comments, you guys know you can throw them up in chat there. If you want to jump to the front of the line, you can super chat. Otherwise, we'll go through this. I'll go probably give my reactions after we get through a couple of the articles here, because it looks like we've got two short ones. And then maybe for any of you that are unfamiliar with Xenoblade Chronicles, because we are mostly Overwatch as a channel here, but we do like to talk about other gaming news, maybe make recommendations here and there. We can give you a little bit of a sample of what stuff looks like. But let's get into it. So, first things first, we've got Xenoblade voice actress implies a new game is in the works, which is true. So, it's been confirmed. In June of this year, a Xenoblade fan held a particularly significant interview with actress Jenna Coleman. Coleman, who is primarily known for her roles as Clara Oswald on TV Instruction Doctor Who and Jasmine Thomas in the soap opera Emerald Emmerdale? Emmerdale? That's what I'm going to say. Who was also Melia in the first Xenoblade Chronicles game over a decade ago. She appeared in video chat with the YouTube channel Din Meteorite, a small gaming channel with around 33 subscribers. Okay, well if that's small, like I think of us as a small channel with our 1700, so I guess we've been promoted, guys. We're not small anymore. We're bigger than that. Okay. Uh, to talk about several subjects, including her time spent on Xenoblade Chronicles and the recent expanded Switch remaster Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. So, for those of you that don't know, Xenoblade Chronicles, I didn't play it when it came out. I wasn't even aware of it. I knew about previous Xeno games, but it came out. It was, of course, on a system that had a tiny install base in the Wii U there, so it didn't get played much. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out for the Switch, had a much larger install base, did quite well for that. They even found that Mithra Pyra, the female lead there, worked her way into the Smash Bros. Games, and that maybe isn't a huge accomplishment anymore because everybody and their cousin has worked their way into the Smash games, but it was a big enough success and it saw enough adaptation, enough stuff that they went ahead and worked that they did go, hey, let's add this in here, let's keep doing the fan base, and it's been a popular game. Enough so, in fact, that they redid the previous game, Xenoblade Chronicles, and did a re-release on the Switch there, which was more accessible to more people. Much larger install base. Again, while the interview was 2 months ago on this 33 subscriber channel, it only recently caught the notice of social media, in large part because of an accidental slip of the tongue from Coleman. Musing about her first role in Xenoblade Chronicles, Coleman said, God, when was the first game? 10 years ago? It was a long time ago. I did it pre-Doctor Who days, and when they did the second one, they asked me to come back, and I think they're going to do another. Coleman paused. Common knowledge? Don't know. Yeah, I think they're going to do another. Don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Okay, so apparently that was the leak. Coleman's quote has caused rumors to stir over the weekend of a new Xenoblade Chronicles currently in development. According to our sources here, we can indeed confirm that to be the case. Sources, so they're claiming to have multiple sources that they confirmed that with, besides the leak itself. Okay, let's hope that they're right. Moreover, the game is nearing its final stages of development, but its release date may be held back for any number of reasons. And they're saying that in present tense. They're saying this in present tense on August 9th, 2021. So that's interesting. But yes, given the state of the world, releases of games and movies, all those things isn't terribly surprising. The third Xenoblade Chronicles game in development, at Monolith Soft, is a sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, currently the best-selling game in the series. The ending of the trilogy takes place in the far-flung future, with a few returning characters who have long outlived their human counterparts from both Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So that's weird, because while they supposedly take place in the same universe, well, let me rephrase that. Well, they supposedly take place on like the same premise, planet, whatever. I think they either take place like thousands and thousands of years apart or in different dimensions. I think that's the belief there, because Chronicles 2 is not a direct sequel to Chronicles, is my understanding. I am not the expert of their lore. This is why Coleman, who plays Milia, would be aware of the third game, as her character is returning and she is more than likely has recorded voice acting for it. Okay, so the thought there is that the race of character that is Milia would be particularly long lived, but again, that doesn't make sense to be a sequel to both of them. Like, it should be a sequel, at least I think, to either this one, well, to this one, because that's the character that they were in based on what we're told here, but that's okay. Um, Maybe, this almost undercuts the credibility of their sources a little bit here, which concerns me, but no big deal. According to our sources, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was set to be revealed earlier this year and may still be announced before the end of the calendar year, but it has a difficult time with pandemic development and optimizing the game for Switch. The game is aiming for more character models on screen at once than any previous title, according to both playable characters and enemies. Okay. Most of them were giving you, let's see, two would generally give a three-person party, but you'd have like two people per in some of the three-person parties in the Torna prequel, so we'll see. Shouldn't come as a galloping shock. A galloping shock. That's uh, not how that adjective is usually used, but okay. As Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition expanded content was titled Future Connected, indicating that Monolith Soft was looking forward to the future of the series. If all goes well, the game could be released as soon as the first half of next year, delayed from its now original and exceedingly unlikely winter 2021 target date. As always, things can change. Okay, so that's what we have from Fanbyte. We have their Twitter post here where they just shared it. They just said, hey, they've, verified it. Nothing terribly surprising here. And then we have GameSpot, where do we get anything new from them? According to Fanbyte, third mainline entry. It was a long time ago. It was pre-Doctor Who. So that's just them re-reporting the link there. Mainline sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. This is weird. Mainline game is a sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and takes place much farther in the future, except that Melia is a character from the first game, and 1 and 2 seem to be in like different dimensions or at least thousands of years apart, like world has reset levels of years apart. So again, that's weird. Um, and then they're telling us here, recurring character, she is of the High Entia race, which ages far slower, and as a result, she has outlived her human companions. Game was supposed to be revealed earlier this year. Pandemic difficulty. Okay, and we have a source. YouTube Direct Feed Games has collaborated the report, saying that Monolith Soft and Nintendo originally planned to reveal the game several months ago, aiming to push the Nintendo Switch's hardware to its limits. Yeah, which is good, and they've been good at that. This is, as you guys may or may not be aware, Monolith Soft is a Nintendo-owned development team. I think they were originally or were previously Bandai Namco, but Nintendo purchased them. They did some of the open world work for Breath of the Wild, which is part of why that game was able to do so much more than it seems like a Switch should be able to do in terms of how much it could load, what it could do. They could really optimize that. They, of course, did Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which also had a huge open world for a tiny little system, and it's not surprising to see them again sort of going, hey, they're looking to optimize it, they're looking to push the very limits there. So that would be interesting. Seems likely that the game will launch during the first half of 2022, but nothing official. Okay, and then they've got comments here. So what we're going to do here is I can catch up on comments from you guys. Let's take a quick look. Only have a couple of you here. If you're interested, if you guys like don't know anything about Xenoblade, I did load up a couple, just preview videos here that would be relatively safe to show in terms of, obviously, I wouldn't expect any sort of copyright claims or the like on them because they're promotional content that Nintendo wants seen. So if you guys want to be like, well, what did the first games look like? Because you know nothing about that, definitely let me know. But let me catch up on chat. If you guys are interested, we'll show those. If you're not, well, that's fine too. And then we'll go through any sort of comments here. But this was mostly just a quick reporting, sharing the news type one. So let's see where we get. YS says, I am drunkenly eating pizza. Can't watch Overwatch, but corporate talk, yes, please. Okay. Blah says, what if we wanted to super chat through Patreon? Where's the line for that? Ooh, good question. Good question. Semitic says he was a pretty cool character in Smash. I like his gimmick. Yep, yep. Xenoblade, Xenoblade's become one of the bigger names under the Nintendo IP. It wouldn't have been that recently, but it quickly became one in the Switch era, and worked its way into Smash. I should invest in Papa John's after how much pizza I ate. That's probably not a good return. You'd have to own a lot of a percentage of the company for that to really make sense. So Xenoblade is a game you play. I did play them. Yes, I played 2 on the Switch, and then when the definitive edition came out or whatever for the previous one, I played that. I did not grab a Wii U when that came out. Didn't play it there. Didn't really hit my radar until 2, and I went, oh, this RPG looks interesting, and it was. I was impressed with 2. 2 did a very good job of going through and continually, even like 60, 80 hours in, making their combat system go deeper and deeper with what you could do with it. Juggling the elements that you're charging, juggling your charging of, this type of status bar, this type of attack, and you sort of bouncing. And it's an action game, but it's an action game that gave itself a lot of complex depth to it. Semitic says, I know nothing except he is the guy with the shirtless reskin in Smash, okay? Are those videos rated TV PG? Fairly, yes. You haven't heard of it. You need my parents' permission to watch them if they're not. Do you play RDR2? Switch is just what the Wii U dreamed of being. Yeah, but Nintendo's done that before, and that's the thing with Nintendo. Like, Nintendo still sort of thinks of themselves as a toy company rather than a game company. And they've always done that. Like, you remember back in the Game Boy days when it would be like, oh, look, they're doing a Game Boy, and their Game Boy has all these things, and they're like, well, how do we make this more of a thing? How do we do more than this? And they were the ones who would go wild and do things like, I know, let's install cartridges with like rumble packs in them, or cartridges with like cameras on them, Game Boy camera thing, or printers. Like, Nintendo's always been like, what can we do to make this weird, different, etc. And that's what, the Wii. Okay, let's go do the Wii. And the Wii was motion controls, and the Wii itself sold a lot, but again was in this, well, maybe we're not quite here. And if you guys remember the N64 controller with its like 3 paddled system, this, like, people love this controller, but like, let's be honest, this was not a good controller. This effectively didn't exist for this controller. Like, Nintendo's always been weird with their like, no, let's try to do stuff, let's add stuff, let's have this in case we need it. And yeah, the Wii U was a further expansion into the Wii, and while the Wii had a large install base, it was a lot of non-gamers, which didn't do amazing for them, whereas they hit it just right with the Switch. And while Nintendo generally from a development standpoint does a very good job with their games, it's always a little tough to know what the next generation is going to bring in terms of, what are you guys experimenting with now? uh, Nintendo is great. I invested in it. I think that's wise, personally. Don't tell me it's just a toy company. Well, I don't know that it's just a toy company, and nothing's wrong with it being a toy company. I'm just saying they don't think of themselves strictly as a video game company the way some of their competitors might. So they're less in the, and I actually think in some ways that means they might survive longer than like an Xbox or a PlayStation, because, well, what's an Xbox or a PlayStation is it gets closer and closer to just being the PC that you have by your foot down there. Like, whereas there, Nintendo is doing a little more in terms of, well, how can we do this differently? Well, what can we do? All those things. Um, have Temporal, have you ever played Darkest Dungeon? No, I have not. JP says, please, I like Xenoblade. Okay, okay. Why are only 2 people watching? What, more than 2 people are watching? I don't know why it says only 2 people are watching, but like, I can tell that we've got at least 4 people watching here, and I don't think it's because people have said stuff in chat and left. Hey, JP. Can we get a stream where Temporal plays Darkest Dungeon? Because most people are too uneducated to understand finance talk. I don't know that this one's really finance talk. I mean, you could think of it as finance talk in terms of, hey, Monolith Soft is just kind of killing it in terms of what they're doing. They had their hand on Breath of the Wild. They had their hand in helping with Smash Brothers. They had their hand in Xenoblade Chronicles. I mean, they did Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and those were both very successful on the Switch. Like, so in the sense of, hey, they're releasing another game, that might cause that could in theory be good, except that you're not going to be able to invest in them directly. They're owned by Nintendo, so if you wanted to try to invest in that, you'd invest in Nintendo, which, that's not necessarily a terrible idea. If you look at Nintendo's stock price right now, let's do it. I can do that. Sure. If we look at Nintendo's stock price right now, we could look at 6 month. And okay, well, from a 6 month standpoint, they're down right now. Lots of gaming stuff is down right now. Some of this could be microchip stuff. Some of this could be like people wanting to get out of stuff that they consider tech. People going, video games aren't going to do as well because people want to go outside now that things are going to, people wanted to go inside now that things were not in such heavy lockdowns, etc. So you could look at that if we look at it from a 1 month. To me, this looks like, hey, that's kind of low, and I think Nintendo, like I said, I think Nintendo has been doing very well this generation. So if you wanted to get that, it's probably going to go back up. Probably going to go back up faster than some other aspects of the market. So not a bad idea. Is this game going to be a heavy piece of it going back up? Probably not, just because Nintendo has their hands in so many things. They've got so many games going on. Like if you go Monolith, yes, this would be good probably, unless Monolith just does much worse than they've been doing. But again, Nintendo is so big that you're not really directly getting at them. But again, Nintendo's a pretty solid company. So again, I'm not telling you what stock specifically to buy, but I would not hesitate to buy Nintendo stock personally. I think that'd be a neat addition to his channel if he streamed an hour of a random game per day. Could be. No, Nvidia is killing it. Has been killing it forever. Can our next stream be you reviewing my investments? I will block out the amount I have invested. Maybe. But I certainly don't hate this one if this is a move you want to make. Okay, we're going to hope that we don't get claimed on this, but let's show you guys a little bit of the previous two games here, just so that you know what we're talking about.
Long ago, two great titans came into existence. The Bionis and the Mechonis. The Titans were locked in a timeless battle.
They live on them. They live on the Titans.
Until at last, only their lifeless corpses remained.
Huh? In the sky?
This can't be.
No way. It's a Mechon.
Commence the assault on Bionis.
The Monado. It's the only sword that's effective against the Mechon armor. If we could just unlock the Monado's power.
It's my turn! Shulk!
Sure.
No! It'll kill you! Shulk!
You're gonna have some cheesy coming of age because it is a, hero's call to action story.
Strange. It was as if I could see into the future. I know you won't believe this, but Shulk can see the future.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yes, most people don't just assume that you can see the future. Yeah, okay.
It's not me. It's the power of the Monado.
And so it begins. The resurrection of the Bionis.
And we should get a little bit of gameplay here.
Monado boy.
The future I see, it isn't set.
Okay. Personally, I feel like you can beat the future things are a little too overdone as a trope. Like, personally, I think in JRPGs and RPGs in general, you can beat the future a little overdone, but hey, fun game.
So I can use this power to change the future. And that's exactly what I intend to do.
Mechon. It's not over. The people of Bionis will never let you triumph.
So that's a little dangerous territory wise. Wes, I'll come back to that, but that's a little dangerous territory because that becomes a little too close to like personal advice. And while that might be popular, I'd have to be really careful in how I did that. Maybe that would even be a channel segment where we actually went through that for like tier 3 Patreon subscribers or something. But I'd have to be very careful with that because it turns into, wait, I do not have a fiduciary responsibility. How are we handling this, etc. So I'll think on that. But causality. Okay. So obviously that happened. We're going to get a little bit more here. That's them going into the preview for the new thing. If memory served, we got a little gameplay.
The battle HUD and menu screens are easy to read, and
Please tell me we got a little more gameplay than that.
Nintendo Switch, the game looks better and plays smoother than ever before. The battle HUD and menu screens are easy to
Okay, so you got a little bit there of the gameplay. It's not amazing. Let's hop over to the other one, just showing you guys a little bit more of, again, what these looked like. That was the older game. I suppose technically it's the remaster, which in some ways means it was released more recently as a remaster. But that's the older game. Its combat system was fun, not as interesting as this one.
Together with our divine father.
You swear on your dog's life you would never sue me? Well, that's pretty good, actually, because if you're swearing on your dog's life, I know we're good, because, you know, you care about your dog more than you would. Blah pointing out that swearing on your life is not legally binding. Fair, fair.
You're a blade.
Can we jump there?
Pyra!
Here!
Cover me!
Got it!
See some combat. Again, an action combat system where you can see you're effectively trying to juggle to combo through these, and you can see you're sort of trying to tree branch your way through using different blades, using control of different characters who then have 3 different blades that they can access, which you could think of as weapons that they need to swap being equipped to sort of work their way through the combat system. And while they're working their way through the combat system like that, they're doing that with this. Oh, they're doing that with these. They're doing that with positionals. These abilities have cooldowns that charge based on getting their auto attacks off, and using these charges this up to 4 different levels. And then you have to go ramping up in the levels you use to get through the tree branch that you saw on the next screen there. So that's sort of what you're looking at for the combat system in this game. And it gets deeper and deeper and deeper as you play. They're still teaching you the combat system 60 hours in, 70 hours in, etc. It doesn't at all feel incomplete 10 hours in, and maybe 10 hours it does. It doesn't feel at all incomplete 15 to 20 hours in, but like it just keeps going deeper and deeper, and it was fun. It was fun. Okay, so that's fine. We'll go back to our news here. Maybe we'll take a quick look at Nintendo stock. Okay, interesting, interesting. Okay, so I saw what you guys had to say for chat. We got a few comments here. Maybe I missed it. Different worlds, same planet, different progressions at the exact same time. So different dimensions is how I'm going to read that. Both games also meet their end at the same time too. Nothing confirmed about the next game at this point. I should hope so. Monolith hasn't exactly done anything for 4 years. Exactly the amount of time it takes to develop a game. Fine. Sure. Okay, nothing too interesting there. So I'll catch up on chat. If you guys have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, throw it up in chat now. Otherwise, if you're enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps out quite a bit. If you like it when I do other type of content like this, when I talk about an upcoming game, report on the news, maybe even work in a little bit of like showing what some of the previous games have looked like, you can let me know that. You can like it. If you don't like it when I do this sort of stuff and you're like, no, Temporal, go back to Overwatch. Talk about only Overwatch. Only Overwatch. You can go ahead and hit that thumbs down button, as that lets me know that that's all that you're here for and that's what you'd like me to be spending my time on. And, you know, I'm somewhat responsive to what that does because, as most of you know, I do treat this as a, you know, this is a thing that we do when we do what the market demands, etc. But hey, okay. And what YS demands is that I review his portfolio, which I'll think about it. That could be a thing. We'll have to see what interest is. If you guys think I should review his portfolio, you should put that in the comments down below. That's what you should do. Okay. You would like to spend your baby pot on it. Looks like a fun system. Heard it's pretty complicated. Okay, we'll schedule a 60-minute session with you that you won't upload to YouTube. It'll just be finance talk. Just because you sign something saying you're giving up your rights to it doesn't mean that clause is valid or enforceable. Right. And that's the thing. Like with how our legal system is set up, just because someone says they won't sue or sign something saying that no, it won't go wrong, you don't know, A, that it's enforceable. You don't know that the laws won't change in the future to invalidate it. Like it's messy. It's messy, unfortunately. Yeah. I will make it legally binding. At best, you can probably select an alternative to be something like arbitration, though if the contract itself is challenged, it could be kicked back. Nintendo is actually something I regret investing in so far, waiting on Pokemon Legends. Okay. Really? When did you invest in it? When did you invest in Nintendo? Because, like, if we look at, again, we can look at a 5-year. If you invested before the Switch, obviously you would be rocking it. No problems there. Now you can say, okay, other parts of the market have grown similarly. Sure. If you invested post-Switch, yeah, there's times when investing post-Switch right now would look poor. If you invested, while it was up here, that's not so good. If you invested while it was like, hey, let's go back to, we've got to go to our 5-year. If you invested last year after we knew about lockdown, so let's go here. This would be a time after we knew about lockdown. It did well after we knew about lockdown, but it sounds like you didn't rotate. It sounds like you didn't rotate out of some of this tech stock, some of the stay-at-home type stock, like many people would have expected to when the things started to unlock. People were expected to go out and want to do things again, which, again, that's fine. I don't think that's an issue because I think it'll come back. I think you might see some, are people going to, in resurgences, go back to doing this type stuff? Are people going to go, hey, as new games come out that they want? It's, again, a how long do you want to hold on to it type thing. 2018. All stocks did well after lockdown. Okay. March to now is an illusion. Sure. I mean, March to now is an illusion. Sure. I mean, yes, everything did. Yes, I understand how money works and how money effectively had to find a place to go when money went to assets and stock our assets. Like, we're not in disagreement there. But Blah's going to say that's not true. I mean, okay, not all stocks did well, but the market in general moved up because money was pumped into it. That is a thing that happens, and we know that that's how that works. That said, some things did better than other things. Like if you had to pick between investing in, say, manufacturing or investing in entertainment type stuff like this did better than, I don't know, companies that make microchips, just as an example. They didn't all do amazing when this happened, even, shortage and all. Are you a musician? If so, wondering how you feel about the Xenoblade OST. I'm not a musician, and I do not consider I'm definitely not a musician, not particularly strong in that area at all. Carnival cruises aren't doing that well. There's another example. I hear you, YS. I hear you. You're belligerent when you're drinking and eating pizza. Okay. If there's no final questions there, we can go ahead and call this one. Let me just scroll back up and see. Temporal is in a band. Let me just see if I missed anything interesting. Okay. I think that covers it. Cool. Again, if you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Temporal out.